some would say, doing Oakland Raiders pre and post, man?
Well, I did the pre and post for 6 years. This is my 19th year with the organization. I do TV and their official podcasts and a bunch of private events for them now. So 19 seasons with the Silver and Black Nest. But the problem is, first time back in the postseason in 14 years.
What are you doing? 7 hours a day of live radio, JT?
Not as much there. It's 5. I do 2 hours in San Francisco every day, Pacific time, 10 to noon, then a break, and then I do the national show for Fox. Believe this, my friend, started in 2001 as we go in, and next year in 2000, this year, I'll be going into my 16th year at Fox Sports Radio, and you had the 25-year anniversary. I had the 20-year anniversary of syndication this year, so we're still kicking, we're still fighting, we're still staying below the radar, below the bullets, and we're still hanging in there.
Fighting with everybody but each other, you and I. I think we're the last two sports radio hosts to actually get along and like each other and do a little rock and roll. Look, I'll get back to the Raiders for a minute, but do you want to tell the story about our little Vegas thing, or do you want me? Why don't you tell the story, because I think your perspective's more interesting, because I flew to Vegas to see the Stones and Mick didn't show up. So, other than that, we had to make the most of it, Brick,
Yeah, we did, and I met my wife at a Rolling Stones concert, and my wife and I, whenever the Stones go on tour, we went to Coachella this year to see Old Cello, which was great, and then I had the Wonka tickets, really good seats to go see him in Vegas, and obviously Mick, with the laryngitis from Coachella, canceled. Me and you met up, we rallied, we saw a couple of the bandmates, the back row of the Stones get together and play a little gig at a small bar in Vegas.
That was unique. You got to admit, that was a pretty good night, right?
Yeah, it was. My wife had a blast. You had a blast. We had a blast. It was good to be in a room with a lot of Stones fans who made the best of a cancellation of the real show. And, they didn't come back on that tour. I saw them play that Saturday night. I went back and saw them again, and they were unbelievable. It's just incredible, because me and you love rock and roll. We're big Rush fans. We love music. And to see the Stones still kicking ass on tour and playing at the level. I'm telling you, I've seen the Stones well over 20 times, and to see them at Coachella the way they played with McCartney and Neil Young and Dylan, Roger Waters and The Who, they brought the house down, and then I saw them, the following week, and they were just as good. So I hope they keep kicking nets. Who would have thought that Keith Richards would survive 2016, but George Michael and Carrie Fisher and all these other icons wouldn't be here with us?
I got a boot of David Bowie from the Sound and Vision Tour in 1990. By the way, I panned that as a critic at the Evening Sun, and then 6 months later, Bowie called me. I told him I panned it, and he agreed that I should have panned it, and now I've got the DVD from a Tokyo show, and it's magnificent. Bowie in 1990, we're never going to see that again. I mean, and it's funny that you would have tweeted the same exact thing at the same exact time that I tweeted off that Kennedy Center thing the other night about how incredible Bob Seger was. I saw Kings of Leon come out there and do the Eagles thing. We saw Vince Gill, who was wonderful, and then Bob Seger comes out and does Heartache Tonight. And I don't even like that song, but of all the Glenn Frey songs you could do, you tweeted about how incredible it was. I tweeted about how incredible it was. There is something about seeing these geriatric, and I'm a Springsteen guy. I'm going to Australia and New Zealand in a couple of weeks to chase Bruce around. When you see somebody who's 70 who's doing it, it's like seeing Tom Brady do this at 39, although he's a punk and a creep and a cheater.
Yeah, I first off agree on your Brady assessment. And, the old-time rock and rollers, look, my partner on the radio at night, Tom Looney, who always says the same thing. Get over it. You're always whining and moaning about rock and roll not being as good as it was. I got a 15 and 13-year-old son that they don't listen to rock and roll the way we did at that age, because there's not enough great artists. Of course, there's some good rock bands of young musicians, but nowhere near at the level that we saw on the Kennedy Center Honors when the Eagles and James Taylor and all the great rock and roll was coming out of the 60s into the 70s, and then the birth of 70s rock and roll, and what we saw all the way through the 70s and the 80s, and then what we caught in the 90s and the new millennium. It's been epic, and now there is a vacuum behind it, an absolute vacuum. Speaking of Kings of Leon, I thought they nailed it. I thought they were brilliant with their their covers of the Eagles. And on top of that, Seager, who I've seen live, he doesn't do many shows like that. To see Seager come out and knock it out of the park for the Eagles was really special last night. And how about the Al Pacino tribute? I mean, come on, he's got to be one of your top 3 all time. To see Pacino there and to go through his library of epic movies, that was a great show.
I thought the little Carlito's Way stuff was great too. Hey, did you see the Tony Bennett special last week by any chance?
I did.
That was another one.
I've seen him out in Vegas.
Dude, that was an unbelievable. Like everything about that was great. I mean, I wanted to stand up from. I was laying in bed with my wife. I wanted to stand up and applaud at the end of that. I think there is a great, there's a music appreciation out there for these artists that are there, and I think the loss of Prince, the loss of Glenn Frey, all these artists that we're losing. George Michael last week. I think it's created great appreciation for what is still out there and the good things that are going on. My wife's pissed I'm not bringing her to Vegas this weekend to see Bruno Mars. You got any Bruno Mars hookup, man? I'm bringing her to Vegas this weekend. She's mad at me.
I was actually looking at that show. I'm going to be out of town up in the Bay Area, but that's another really good artist who we've seen at a couple of Super Bowls knock it out of the park. And there's a guy who knows how to entertain in the level of Michael Jackson and James Brown. That's the biggest show. Everybody plays the Strip in Vegas on New Year's. That's the biggest headliner coming up this weekend.
Man, no doubt about it. All right, the biggest headliner this weekend, obviously playoff berths at stake. Brick, anything you want to say about my Ravens at the end of this? And we're playing the Bengals and playing out the string and eating chili in Cincinnati this weekend. This sucks. I mean, Joe Flacco has never played in this kind of a game that means nothing at the end. And I know you guys are in the other direction, finally playing some meaningful games. This has been kind of tough to swallow in a lot of places where in Carolina, a bunch of places where they had high expectations to have years where we're on the outside looking in on New Year's Day.
Yeah, if you look back at Baltimore's schedule and the games that got away, I mean, the Oakland game when Steve Smith got behind and scored and took the lead late in that game, if you hold the Raiders from coming back, you win that game, you're in. And, to see a game where Antonio Brown gets stopped at the goal line and then extends over the goal line to win that game, you know better than everybody from all your bus trips down there, all your trips, your great relationship with Mike Tomlin and especially John Harbaugh. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible to see what that rivalry has become. It is the best rivalry in the entire NFL because Brady has no rival. The Raiders and the Chiefs and the Raiders in Denver from back in the 70s was epic, but that's in the 70s. If you look at the best rivalry we've seen in the NFL going on 15 years, it's not the Seahawks and the Niners. It's nothing. It's Baltimore and Pittsburgh. And for it to come down to that play, that game, and that's what being a fan's all about, getting your heart ripped out on the goal line and for the Steelers to win that game. And I'm concerned about the Steelers going forward. They are a matchup nightmare with Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, and Big Ben if he plays healthy. I think they're probably the only team other than Baltimore who's not scared of going into Foxborough. I have Baltimore ranked number 1 all time of all the teams, not afraid and not shaking in their boots to go into Foxborough in the Belichick-Brady era. I think the only other team that can win up there would be Big Ben and the Steelers.
Well, I've already said this, and I admitted this to Mike Wallace on Tuesday night up at Adams Jeep, that I will be rooting for the Steelers if they play the Patriots. The Patriots have a special spot in hell for me. You know what I mean? Like just in general, you and I will be in Houston together a couple weeks from now at the Super Bowl. If it's Dallas and New England, I'm going to root for Dallas, for crying out loud. That's how far this thing is sunk. I need to get some white hats into this thing. I need to get some teams that I can like and some people that I can like. It's hard to hate on Dak Prescott right now and Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, I've almost warmed to the Dallas Cowboys after 40 years, right?
Yeah, that's a hell of a team. What they've done this year is no fluke. I'm born and raised, the team of my youth is the New York Giants, and the Giants are 2-0 against the Cowboys this year for a reason. They're another team that matches up well against them, not intimidated by them. Eli is epic at reading the Dallas defense and getting the ball to Odell Beckham Jr., but Dallas has done everything right, Ness, and look at what Jerry Jones has done as the general manager and the head of that powerful organization now, setting up that team, that offensive line, and that roster. If it's, it's a Fox Super Bowl this year, and if Fox, who lucked out getting the Cubs, I repeat, the Cubs and the curse in the World Series, if Fox gets Dallas, New England, no debate, it'll be the highest rated Super Bowl of all time. Fans will drive in from Dallas looking to take our hotel rooms at a premium, and it will be a sea of Cowboy fans because the Patriots do not travel well. Me and you have covered several Patriots Super Bowls. I repeat, they don't travel well. They bring a small contingency of fans. So if Dallas gets in, look for a sea of blue and white in Houston as the Cowboys look to win the Super Bowl.
And look for you and me underneath some bar hiding somewhere out near the Galleria, no doubt, right?
Look, I'm going to be doing a double shift. You work all day on Radio Row. Me and you are two of the only guys left that know how to work during the Super Bowl. We get there, we plant ourselves, we interview the biggest names, we play the ones back that are worth it and are entertaining, and we go out and we entertain, we go see some live music and have a good time. I go to the Super Bowl because it's the Super Bowl of my radio show every year.
I agree with that.
I go there to work and to have fun and to see friends like you and have a good time.
And if we're lucky, we'll get margaritas half as good as we had last year. So, hey, Brick, man, love you, appreciate you. Give Del Rio my best. I owe him a text anyway. I am not a Raider hater here in January, especially if they're playing the Steelers or the Patriots. I'm going to break out the skull and the crossbones and some wacky, black hole outfit, and I'll be supporting you all the way to Houston, Brick.
Well, the highlight of the year is your wife. She's still an inspiration to many. The hooking up with the hero in Germany and giving him the world tour in the United States, it felt like a world tour. It was epic. I followed it on Facebook. And
there was only one meeting room we were in, though, and that was Jack Del Rio. So I want to make that clear, that the Raiders rolled out the black and silver carpet for us in Alameda, and we really are grateful. It was really, it was humbling, quite frankly. It was incredible, 44 Raiders getting on the registry that day, and Derek Carr being cool to us. A little piece of me went down when he got hurt. I Facebook right away, oh, no, Derek Carr. Because we liked him, even though you guys have beaten us 2 years running now. Well, I got a soft spot for the Raiders all of a sudden.
Don't count out the silver and black. It's not over. It's not over yet.
Okay.
Watch McGloin in this next game, and let's see what happens here. We need a Flacco-esque run. Flacco, other than Joe Montana, we need a run like that for the Raider Nation to live another day.
You need a Hostetler run is what you need, probably, right?
Absolutely.
That's what you need. Hey, Brick, appreciate you, man. Give him hell out there in Vegas. I'll get out there to see you soon, and we'll get some tacos and beer together, okay?
Take care, bud. Good talking to you.
See you in Houston. Same to you. JT the Brick can be followed at JT the Brick on Twitter, as well as at Fox Sports Radio and 95.7 The Game in the Bay Area. Only dude I know that I can honestly say works harder than me. I think I work harder than anyone, and I'm I'll put me up against anybody but that guy. Doing national radio and doing the local radio in San Francisco and doing Raiders games and hanging out in Vegas and still finding time for the Rolling Stones. JT the Brick, the man, the myth, the legend, 20 years. Congrats, Brick. You can find me nasty at WNST.net, out on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, anywhere we were in 2016. We're going to be in the same places in 17 and giving everybody trouble. Watching the Terps, watching the Caps, getting ready for spring training in Sarasota, and getting ready for Super Bowl 51 coverage in Houston, where I get to see a lot of my friends, so it'll be good stuff. I'm Nestor. This is WNST.net, AM 1570, and it's almost a wrap for 2016. We never stop talking Baltimore sports.